Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Musari Show. Depending on which time zone you're dialing from. If you are listening or watching from YouTube, please be sure to hit the like and subscribe button and drop a comment too. And if you're tuning in from Spotify, please also be sure to drop a 5-star rating. So I'm quite excited to introduce today's guest today. He has built a successful wealth management company. He is a real estate investor, and he's built a successful app called CakeClub. So, ladies and gentlemen, please do join me in welcoming Zdenek. It's so great to have you today.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Sure, great. So, I'm going to start by asking you a question that I like to ask my guests. So, what is your why? Because whenever someone does achieve success in any area, I'd like to believe that there is something beyond just money that motivates them to get there.
Well, I have to admit, when I first started my first business as a young man, I was out to be rich, and quite frankly, I didn't care about people. I just, however, I was going to get there. Had a family, wanted to make sure they were taken care of. But I would tell you, what a turning point in my life was probably in my mid 30s when all the real estate investments I had and the company I had at that time, it was I was going bankrupt. I was on the verge of bankruptcy. I had tremendous cash flow losses per month, and and I was brought up to where you didn't ask for help. You just relied on yourself. Asking for help was a weakness, but I finally had to, and I was stunned at the amount of people that came out of the woodwork to help me. And quite frankly, with their help, with my wife's help, of course, I managed to avoid bankruptcy, and actually became very prosperous afterwards. So it was during that time when I saw how people helped me, and that I also discovered financial planning to help people become financially free. I was determined that I was going to help people as people helped me. And so I made a mission up that I still go by today. I want to be a positive, powerful, successful influence in a person's life, find their greatness, and have them live the life they want. Right now, along the way, as well as become financial free. So that's why I do what I do today. It's what I do with CakeClub. It's what I'm doing. It's why I'm here on your podcast.
No, that's awesome. And it looks like you have been in a situation where you're sort of financially free because you have made money. You face a couple of challenges and you crept way back. So I know that financial freedom is one of your favorite topics, and you've written books about it. So, and people tend to define financial freedom and link it to their own personal circumstances. So, what would your definition of financial freedom be?
Well, I think a lot of people's financial free definition is having a lot of money and wealth. You have a lot of money, then you're free. But I don't think so. I think people can be a slave to their money. But I think financial freedom to me is having choices. It's basically the choice to go to work or not, start another business or not, take advantage of opportunities that come your way, take more risk in life if you wanted to. It's a choice of not having to deal with people you don't want to. It's basically that's what it is. And it doesn't matter the amount of money. It matters on what your lifestyle is. And you can have a smaller amount than someone else needs to be financially free. But that's what it is to me. It's all about choices and being able to do whatever you want.
Okay, great, awesome. So in this case, I see that a lot of the wealth that you built was around wealth management. You also have a wealth management company, an app in CakeClub, I believe, and you're
Yes.
also in real estate. Tell us a bit about the journey that got you into those respective fields.
Well, um, I grew up in a baking family, and I the first one to go to college, so I did. I was going to originally be a geologist, but I saw that I wasn't going to get wealthy by working for a university or an oil company. So I switched to business, got into tax work. I love tax work, became a CPA, worked for a large accounting firm in New York City. But along the way, too, in college, I worked for a tax franchise, H&R Block. And I got to love doing that. And when I got out of college, they offered me a job. But I eventually bought about 6 other franchises, expanded to a couple more. And even though I was working full time, doing a job as a CPA, I decided I was going to eventually have my own company. So I left. I started my own company. I was about 29. It was a CPA firm. At the same time, I started getting into real estate because to me, my first piece of real estate was a two-family house, sort of together. And I thought this was neat because my rents were paying for like two-thirds or three-quarters of my mortgage. I thought, wow, this is really great. I bought that for about 75, 80,000. I've actually sold it within 5 years for 200 and some $1,000. I thought, wow, this is a great way to make money. So not only did I have my CPA firm, but I had this, and I started to get more into real estate. I started doing some. I did about 3 or 4 syndications. I raised money to have a commercial project that was going to be about 70,000 square feet. Started to have another syndication that was developing about 130 homes in my area. And I started all this, but I was still keeping the firm, and I was growing that into a wealth management firm too, because I believed it was really good to have a cash flow firm, something that was there to supply cash flow in case, how can I say, the market turned. And yes, the markets like real estate or others, they have their ups and downs, and I want to be protected. So that's how I really got into that. Again, I almost went bankrupt doing that. Because I didn't manage myself well. By the way, I picked some lousy partners, wasn't watching cash flow well, and I was lucky to learn and not make those mistakes after that, and escape bankruptcy, and go on to eventually have this wealth management firm, Traust Sollus, eventually to have CakeClub, the CakeClub app, and that's where I am today.
Okay, that's an interesting story, and it's interesting that you highlighted some of the possible mistakes in real estate investing, because a lot of people venture into that field. When I look across the country, you do see a lot of interesting training programs that are being sold on the internet. You see a lot of real estate moguls with massive networks where they kind of build a business money that's predicated on training people for pay and exchange. And the money that you pay almost gives people access to that network. So for people who are getting into real estate investment, what would you say are like some of the alternative strategies for real estate investment? Because the average person, I assume, because a bit before I was a bit more informed about it, to me real estate was being a realtor and agent and buying and selling. So what would, in a nutshell, be some of the key strategies for wealth building?
Well, I think that for one thing, I've learned that you should have a portfolio, and a portfolio means you have real estate in it, but you should have other things too. When you're making money, you should have investments, whether in the stock market, companies, or something, and real estate, just not real estate. The mistake I made when I first got into this is I had my company, it was just starting, but I started getting into big time into real estate. And I really mean it. I mean, tens of millions of dollars. I mean, over a period of 5 years. And the mistakes I made is basically I spread myself too thin. And when the market changed, because we had a very severe downturn in like the late 80s, I didn't have the cash flow I had to start giving away my real estate to the banks or make deals because I didn't do that well. So for me, for someone just starting out, if you have a job, I'd keep that job and, how can I say, slowly get into real estate. I'd buy maybe a two-family house or multi-family homes. I get into something that you feel that you can manage, maybe get your spouse involved also in that. And then as you get your feet wet in that, you may want to go and get partners. When I say partners, like good friends, a family relation. I will tell you, always be the managing partner. Make sure if it's your idea and your project, you're running it. Make sure so that these other partners don't interfere. And then you can slowly get into like syndications, which is what? If you want to raise $2 million, $5 million, you basically go out and get maybe like 20, 25 people, and you're selling, how to say, memberships in this limited partnership or your syndication. But again, always remain the general or managing partner.
Yeah.
So to me, my biggest thing is that have an independent source of cash flow when you're first starting out. Control your projects. and most importantly, pick your partners and pick them well.
No, that's really interesting take because a lot of people see real estate investment as solely one career. It can be, I believe, in some cases,
Sure.
but it can also be viewed as an investment portfolio, sort of. Because sometimes you find people that have built wealth in other areas, such as they've built tech and fintech companies that they've
Sure.
exited successfully. They've had successful day jobs somehow, and they venture into real estate. Some see it as part of a bigger portfolio, and some see it as the main, um, kind of like main piece of their personal
Sure.
investment portfolio.
Well, keep in mind too, there are very successful real estate companies out there, but what they do is they diversify too.
Yeah.
They diversify in types of real estate, commercial, versus residential. Plus, they maybe have a management services company, which means they really manage their projects, but they can manage the projects of others. So you want to diversify that way. But in my case, I wasn't a very big real estate company. I wanted my own independent cash flow for my own company.
Yes. So I'll get you sort of where your wealth management and your real estate had at the same time. So, given you're obviously someone that has seen, you've gone through various economic cycles while you're in that business, and today we're in an unprecedented times, and no matter where one sits in the political spectrum, one can agree that they are quite unprecedented times. So, let's say if you're like advising the younger you, and you wanted to venture into real estate investment today, what would be like the 3 or 4 tips you would give the person based on current trends, where the economy is, where it could potentially go?
Well, keep in mind, I started in the real estate when it was taken off too, and it was for 4 or 5 years, real estate was really hot. So I'd say, don't lose sight of the fact that what's hot can be cold tomorrow. So, and I've seen like real estate and as well as the market go up and down over the last 30, 40 years. So go into a piece of real estate or into real estate investment knowing you have a back door. What do I mean by a back door? If the market changes, all of a sudden you lose your tenants or your cash flow, how are you going to basically be able to get out of that real estate deal and or having to say, make sure you're okay. And having a great source of cash flow reserves is great. So if I look back at me in that great hot time, I would have probably built reserves. That's one. Two, I had many projects. I would say learn when a project is a dog, because not all the real estate property we buy is really great. Sometimes you may think it's great, you can develop it, its potential, but sometimes it doesn't. So don't let a bad piece of real estate drag you down, because if you get in a situation, it only drains your reserves and takes away from your other projects. Third, surround yourself with a great championship team. Get yourself a really good real estate attorney, a CPA who understands real estate, a banker who will work with you, and get 2 banks at least. Make sure, and insurance people, make sure you have the best around you. Don't have to be the most expensive, but the ones that respond to you. They follow up with their work. They're timely. And then 4, learn to pivot. Learn when things are bad. How can you either refinance your real estate, get another partner? I mean, I had a project once where it was going under, and it was a syndication. I went to my partners and said, look, I've got to re-syndicate this. We've got to have some new partners bringing in new money to save it. And so I re-syndicated this and actually saved the project. So learn to pivot, learn to be creative. And when things go bad, just don't hide. Get out there and be with your bankers and whatever and work things out.
So that's awesome. One needs to hold reserves. One needs to know when to walk away from a deal. In a nutshell, building a super team, really strong team with a CPA, banker,
Right.
accountant, and all that, and also being flexible enough to pivot. So I see you wearing the CakeClub T-shirt. So tell us a little bit about CakeClub, how the journey was of building the business, how that's going, and the joy of serving your clients.
Well, again, CakeClub is one of my more recent kind of companies. About a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, a young man read my books. I wrote a couple of books. He liked my approach to financial planning because it's cash flow oriented, how to do things to make sure you're making more cash flow. And so he approached me and he said, Al, why don't we, I'd like to take your books and make an app from it to help people that, because most people don't have a good financial education. We
Yeah.
don't teach in high schools, college. So he said he wants to do that. I said, and I liked what he was doing. So I said, well, let's start a company together. So, so basically, again, my mission in life is to be a positive, powerful, successful influence in people's lives. And just because I sold my main company, Traust Sollus, and sold some of my real estate, doesn't mean I've given up on my mission. So when this came along, I saw it as my mission to help tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands or more people to get financial education and to be able to always make the best financial decision all the time. So we got together. We looked at, well, what can we use to really, especially address young people, Gen Z, and we came up with the idea of let's call it CakeClub, and it's CakeClubApp.com. And because what? Life can be a piece of cake. You want life to be, you want to enjoy your cake and have a cherry on top. There was a lot of things, metaphors we could use for it and have fun with it. And so we just launched the app, and I'm trying to be my mission and make sure I'm still of being of help to many people.
That's a very interesting, a unique story of a building of a successful app. Because most of the times when you participate in these startup communities, they kind of like teach techniques of how to validate the business model of a new app, right?
Yeah.
They teach stuff like building out a minimal viable product within, let's say, 3 months, getting it out there to get feedback, validation, making iterations on the app in line with that, and getting it out. It's really interesting to hear a story where an app is derived from a book. That's quite unique, I must say.
Well, what nice, unique thing about this also is that we have an AI component that it's this is not active yet. We have our app at launch, but in about 2 or 3 weeks, hopefully a month, we'll have where if you want to speak to Al Zdenek, if you have a question, we've loaded the more than 400 articles, my appearances, my books into AI, and now you'll be able to ask me a question personally, and I'll be able to answer you in my own voice.
Wow. So it includes your voice and it kind of picks up your thought patterns, and based on that, the model responds to users.
Right. It's amazing what they can do now. But by the way, building an app too, and I've learned a lot from this. I'm not a tech wizard, but my partner is. And I've learned that when you do build an app, there's a fork in the road you're going to come to where you're going to have an outside company build the app for you, and then you can use it. But if you do that, they control all the how the works of the app. And so if you want to add iterations and other things to it, it'll be very difficult. So what we've done is we took our own independent course and we have our own developers. And we have our own developers because that frees us from being controlled by someone else. And we can continue to add enhancements that we want to it.
Okay, that's really interesting because as you were speaking, the idea kind of came of, in the market, you do find a lot of really prominent financial advisors. And sometimes, even within the wealth management and financial sector and industry across the world, you do find people who are not necessarily prominent, but are really successful and knowledgeable in their field. So, the idea kind of came to my mind of kind of like, replicating that with different people as well, where you can get like different professionals to come in and get the AI model to like also memorize their voices, also pick up
Sure.
their thought patterns, their thinking, train the model with their material, and you can have a situation where there's multiple people that they can get advice from.
I think that's great. And by the way, if I may be as bold as this, one of the things about our app that makes it unique is that we're telling you we're finding you cash flow. So from day one, we have this cash rewards thing that if you put your credit cards in it, not necessarily the information, just what you have. Every time you go to the store, we'll tell you which card to use to get the most cash back or points. So you're making money from the very beginning. So if you're having a series like that, I think what people want to hear is like, how can I avoid mistakes and how can I make money? And so, you're asking the really great questions like, what were my mistakes? But then, Al, how'd you turn it around and why you're doing stuff? So I applaud what you're doing.
No, that's really awesome. And tell us a little bit about your books. Obviously, people are going to be seeing the cover and the thumbnail of the podcast and see you holding a couple of your books. Tell us a bit about them and how we can find them.
Okay, well, I have really two main books on planning. One is Master Your Cash Flow, the key to grow and retain wealth. That was for an individual. And then I have another book, How to Master Your Business Cash Flow, grow the company you love and live the life you want now. You can get these on Amazon. Uh, they came out about 6 7 years ago, and they're both have been bestsellers. And what it is, it's a very, in layman's terms, I don't use a lot of legalese or, how can I say, complicated language to show a person how to really how can I say, learn to make the best financial decisions possible, and set your sights on like when you want to be financially free. I think it's really important for people to have like that mountain in the distance, that goal. It may take a while to get there. You may take some roads and crossroads on it. But once you know where you want to go, and when I say where you want to go in actual dollars, how much your lifestyle is, and then how much you're going to need, you start to make decisions around your career, property you own, your investments, that's going to get you there.
Yeah,
And then again, I talk about in the book having a championship team, making sure you're always making the best financial decision possible. But uh, but it all begins with how do you want to live life? What do you want in life? That's where it all begins.
absolutely. I just remembered a story about Mahatma Gandhi where a child was taken by his mother. This child had very unhealthy addiction to candy. So his mom brought him to Gandhi and told Gandhi like, my kid, is addicted to candy. What can he do to overcome this addiction? So Gandhi asked the mother to come with the child in 2 weeks' time. So 2 weeks later, the child came back, and eventually Gandhi gave the child advice to not eat too much candy. So the mom was quite intrigued, like, okay, you asked us to come 2 weeks later. I thought you were gonna give us like the holy grail of advices. I thought it was gonna be something, you know, something complex or something special. And Gandhi ended up saying that, normally ideal teachers are people who actually practice what they preach. I'm kind of paraphrasing. So he himself had candy addiction. So he wasn't in position to tell the child to stop eating candy 2 weeks ago. And eventually, when he stopped, he can give the kid the advice. So in saying that, I've actually ordered the book just now as we speak, Master Your Cash Flow by Zdenek. So I'd like to advise the users to do the same thing. So I
Ah,
got it
very
from
nice of you.
Amazon. Should be here within a week.
That's very nice of you. Thank you.
No, great. No, sure. So it's really great to have you. So in general, I did ask you a specific question on what you would advise the younger you in terms of real estate investment. So in terms of entrepreneurship in general, what would you say to the younger you as we wrap up? And I asked that because in a way, I am sort of like the younger you. I am someone who does have a 9 to 5 in the financial sector, and I do have a couple of business ventures looking at eventually being independent.
I think the best advice looking back when I was a young man, if I was in your position, is when I first started out, I was a self-doer. Didn't rely on other people and didn't ask people for their advice. I just did it. I think I would approach that much differently today. I speak to as many people around me, ask their advice. I'd surround myself with successful people
Mm,
that were better than me. Uh, I'd be open about everything. I'd be open about my failures because I used to be ashamed of my failures. If I was failing, I didn't want to tell anyone. Tell people. That's how you learn. So learn, learn to share, learn to ask for help, and how can I say it? I would say if you find a way to find a job or the business you love, you make money out of it, and it's going to get you to financial freedom. That's a trifecta. If you get two out of three of them, that's really great. But how can I say? Find something you love, give your all to it, contribute to people, ask for help, and enjoy life along the way.
no, absolutely. Thank you so much for the advice. Thank you so much for joining. When the book does arrive, I will gobble it. I will let you know, give you feedback. I hope people who are listening will do the same thing. So thank you so much for joining us once again, and look forward to working with you again.
Very welcome. Enjoy the book and feel free to ask me questions when you get it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.